Hi, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. I've decided to name this series I'm working on now of talking about moon energy in the week because I know I've just been guided by spirit to do the moon energies that to learn something from it and to share that with you. And so I've decided to name this Mooning the Ancestors. Because as you probably know, or if you don't, I've worked a lot with ancestors. When I first started biofield tuning, ancestors started coming to me, and it was very much of a surprise. I um, wasn't able to see or hear them before. In fact, I thought it was, voodoo or or scary, things that we shouldn't mess with, from my Christian upbringing. That had been my perspective. And anyway, so I was suddenly guided the end of July, 1st of August. I was suddenly guided by spirit to switch in the podcast and talk about the moon energies. And so I knew there had to be, at least for me, a connection between the ancestors and the moon. And I learned a bit about that last night. Every day I've been asking for that in seeking that information, that spiritual wisdom. And I gained some just yesterday and a lot more this morning, right after I woke up or right before I woke up, one of the two. And I'll share a bit about that. So, just to have a little bit of fun, because that's what mooning is about, right? Having a little bit of fun. It's about young people, in particular, like showing adults or other people that, hey, I'm doing my own thing, right? And you can't stop me, type of thing, and just having fun with it in a nice way. And that's what I've found about the moon and ancestors. And so I'm going to start by reading just a little bit from the description, what I added in there about the moon energies this week in particular. And it's a waxing crescent moon. We just had the new moon last Friday or Saturday, and depending on where you're located. And so the waxing crescent, a very thin crescent, is rising in the Scorpio constellation on the 29th, so later this week on Friday. And you can see it's waxing into that. That'll be more of the quarter moon there on Friday. And it's in Scorpio, which is special to me because in my natal chart, when I was born under a Scorpio moon. And Scorpio brings out the deep spiritual in me that's seeking the very depth of feeling and the depth of its guiding my inner journey here on healing and helping me to look deep within and to even have pain or confusion or um, to face those emotions that I had felt at times in my life during traumas of various kinds. My life was rather full of traumas, but we all have lives that are difficult, right? And full of trauma in many ways for us. And Scorpio is big with me. So the Scorpio energies this week is about encouraging us to look really deeply into our hidden fears and desires, our old patterns, those emotions that are kind of stored or stuck within us, to look deeply at those, to um, have the seeds of intentions and fuel them with the desire of our heart. The moon is all about our desires and passions, and to find those passions and our soul's purpose or our life purpose, um, guided by this spiritual meaning of listening to our spirit as we go deep within, of quieting the mind, of facing our fears or our old stories, of seeing the transmuting those into joy in our lives, transmuting those into what they were meant to be, as experiences that help us reach those soul contracts, or that are some of our inner desires of what we wanted to experience, and to find that transformation, that transmuting power, and transform our lives by tapping into our soul's purpose and desires, and then coming to express that. And so this moon in Scorpio provides courage for that starting fresh by looking within, and then that transmuting, and then starting over or starting fresh in those new things, by helping us shed what no longer fits us. And so that's our old stories. Just let spirit guide you in which of those, just ask for those that are ready to clear, that are ready for you to face, to arise in your life, so you can see them and feel it, and dive deeply into that healing, that will allow that transformation to take place. And so you could ask yourself, well, what old patterns or thoughts do I need to release so my intentions can bloom, so my desires can bloom? How can I be brave and take these bold steps to honor my inner truth and step into my inner power? So this moon encourages us to move beyond just the surface emotions and intentions of our mind, and look deep at our heart's desires. This energy of the moon is for deep inner healing and deep spiritual change, because we're spirit beings, and so that's the focus of our soul contracts. That's the focus of experiencing these old stories in our lives, of transmuting them, finding that transformative power, bringing the experiences of trauma to gratitude and joy in our lives because of what we find through them. And so these moon energies help us act with courage and patience, to trust our spirit and set our transformation into motion to expand our lives. And the moon will guide you with intuition, dreams, insights, and synchronicities to help you align um, with your inner truth and with the universe. So it's all about these new beginnings through this transformation process. And I've been seeing synchronicities. I'll look at a clock and it's 11:11. That's in the chiropractor's office the other day, 11:11, or 432, or um, many different synchronicities, like thoughts will come to being, and then I'll see it in an email, or I'll see it in the moon energy, or I'll see it later in my dreams. And I was in meditation earlier this morning, just meditating on asking what to arise that was ready to arise. Just I had had an experience yesterday and during a client session, and more of this download came to me about the connection between the moon and ancestors. And so I was just meditating on that a little bit this morning, and I suddenly, my concentration focused, and I went into the third eye energy of the purplish white light at my third eye, and I was seeing myself walk down this dirt road, and I went into the side. It was kind of covered with brush, or with, really, it was tree leaves all over, and I couldn't see anything. It was through all these tree leaves, and I was just kind of spreading them apart, and kind of digging or walking through it as I could. And then my hands felt it before my eyes could see it. My hands felt metal or some hardwood in there that wasn't a tree trunk. It was something man made. And I felt it, and it was like a treasure trunk, kind of like. And I opened the curved top of it, and I could tell with my hands it was filled with gold coins and or other coins. I mean, I couldn't see real well. I was beginning to see a little bit. It was full of the coins of the gold and silver colors, and I was digging through that for something more than just the money. And I found a key, a big golden key, and I picked it up, and suddenly this I like took one more step past that where I was, and my world or my vision expanded, and I was suddenly in like one of those old world buildings, and it was huge and beautiful, and it was surrounded with piled high with treasures, and it was just awesome, all not just the money but all the beauty and ornateness and the meaning within it. And it was like this expansion that this energy does to our lives. So it was a visual of a dream or vision, because I wasn't asleep. It was like a vision of what's to come for me, of or what I'm doing now, of stepping into this treasure, um, that this deep um, inner healing, this deep um, meaning, this deep spiritual knowledge, and the how expanding our lives. But it actually does what I learned in the download I received this morning. It actually does tie in with the old world ancestors, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Um, so it was a beautiful dream. I've had similar dreams before where when I was on the verge of learning many, many new things. And then my dreams, I would wake in the sacred hours or the wee hours of the morning, and from a dream, and I would have had this dream again. One of them was like a treasure chest, and or one of them I was in a cave and lit a lantern, and it was piled high with treasures all over. Another dream that I had, it was several years ago. I was learning many, many new spiritual things and coming into a big transformation in my life at that time, or was about to. I was just on the very vergence of learning some of the new information. And I was like, I love antiques. I've always have. It stems from my grandpa and grandma always going to auctions and buying antiques, and because of their love for it, I was at auctions too at times, and I became an auctioneer, and had just always loved antiques. My home has many antiques from my family in it, and um, anyway, so I was going into like an antique shop. It was in an old building of some kind in this dream I was having or vision in these sacred hours. And it was kind of like from, oh, what's that movie with Harrison Ford, right? He steps in Indiana Jones movie. And it was a big room piled high with treasures all over. And when I woke from that, I mean, I was just awestruck during that dream. It was like, oh, all these things I could ever want or dream of having or seeing and experiencing were all around me. And it was just mind boggling to me. And when I awoke, I knew right away that these treasures around me were the spiritual wisdom I was learning. And so when I had this dream earlier and saw this box, treasure box, and it was full of coins, and I loved the gold coins, but it wasn't the gold coins I was after. It was something deeper. It was that the key to what would expand my understanding, the key to what would um, transform my life and my inner healing journey. And anyway, so had those dreams before. And so during this client session I was having, I was very much led to, before it had happened, this deep meaning had popped into my head of how when we experience these traumas in our lives where the emotions that we feel become stuck in time within our biofields, and that's what we clear in biofield tuning, the sound waves of the tuning forks, or like I use my voice as well. They act as biofeedback to the body, and the body hears the dissonance in them. The biofield does in all the light waves that we're made of and that are filling our biofield, and it hears the dissonance, so it causes the mind to then have the body, or our physiological body, release these um, stuck energies, these stuck emotions that we experienced and held on to for so long. We didn't let them flow through and receive them as good. They were trauma in our lives that we experienced, and so that energies, those emotional energies, become stuck in time within our biofield and within our body as well. And so I've, over the last couple years, um, I've been experiencing a lot more of how these stuck soul energies or stuck heart fragments. When we have these traumas, we fragment. It's like part of our consciousness becomes stuck, and it really does. I find that in the biofields, and in particularly in one place, and all the stuck traumas that I find in people are stuck beneath the left foot. The left foot is all about being stuck in traumatic or chaotic situations in our lives. And that's so, these energies that happen during trauma, the energy that's stuck sticks with them is stuck beneath the left foot. Sometimes it's far beneath, sometimes it's fairly close, sometimes it's a little bit off to the side. But so I clear those energies and they rejoin the foot. But that's just the negative energy that held from the trauma. But then you find the other stuck emotions from those traumas that are found in other places in the biofield. And so during the session where I find those stuck pieces of consciousness of people, then we clear at the emotion levels, often the heart, but it's not always the heart. It can be other places too, and free those emotional times during their lives where those emotions were stuck because of the traumas they experienced to them. And it doesn't have to be big traumas. It doesn't have to be sexual trauma or high abuse or a big something that happens to disturb your life. It can be the little traumas of every day that we react to also. And so we clear those energies in uh, the biofield, those pieces of consciousness, and when I clear them below the foot, it's as if those little pieces of consciousness guide me to where to work, and we clear the ages that those um, things happened in, and those traumas happened in your life, and they free him, and then when the last one of those that needs to be freed is freed, then it's as if, because I'm using the tuning fork and, like I said, often using my voice, the it's the that little piece of consciousness is as if they jump on the fork and ride it in with the magnetism of the fork that pulls, that it's kind of like a boat that pulls those released particles as a wake behind it, or is pushed in front of it, and we um, pour those into, with the vibration, pour them into your central channel so you can use them again. And it's just part of a beautiful healing that takes place. And so I I had, when I started this session, I had been, um, my inner guidance had put this thought in my mind of clearing these energies, clearing these fragments for their family of this person. And And so that's what I did after I usually douse to start a session. I have a list of several things I douse for that I got from Raymond Grace's Blueprint for Freedom. You can find that on his YouTube channel. And I kind of use that as a rough guide to my own dousing when I start a session. And then I started this soul retrieval, or it was an exchange of particles. Because what happens when we've experienced those traumas, they get stuck in our own biofield and our bodies, those fragments do. But it also, if we're around other people during the traumas, then these fragments of ours can be stored in other people's biofields. And their traumas, if they're experiencing the same traumas that we are, they're particles that are just kind of freaking out because of this trauma, right? It's all this dissonance that doesn't allow the flow. It's like, ah, right? That's how we feel in trauma often. And so it's like our consciousness actually goes blah and kind of splatters almost, it seems like, in dispersing some of these consciousness. That's my thought, my perception of how it must happen. I don't know from science or biofield studies or anything how it really happens, right? But that's how it feels to me. And so we absorb uh, other people's consciousness, or stuck energies are also stored in our biofield because we experience these traumas together, or maybe it's not trauma to one of us but just to the other. And so I went through this client's family, interchanging, taking him and his mother, and him and his father, and him and his brother, and and him and his wife, and him and his child, and then some of the other exchanges within, say, the mother to the dad, and the mother to the other son, and the mother to, you get the idea, in different ways. And so I would ask, in one relationship at a time, um, all those fragments of the mothers that are in my clients, it's time for you to leave now, go back to the mother. And I could feel those going. And then I'd turn to the mother and say, all those of my client that are in you, it's time for his pieces of consciousness to return to him. And right away they would go. And so one after the other, I probably spent 20 minutes going through his, more of his immediate family and relationships, and exchanging these stuck pieces of splattered or traumatic soul and heart fragments that existed, that were stored in other people. And it was so beautiful. It was one after the other, returning the particles to where they were meant to be. And it was beautiful. And then as I worked, um, I was standing in the ancestral river, and I was clearing these energies for him and his father. And it was as if I could look back through time, through his biofield, through the ancestral biofield on his father's side, and see all these things that through time, through his life, through his father's life, and then through, I couldn't exactly tell whether they were all, some were past lives, it seemed like some were ancestors, and some very well could have been just different realities where we made different choices. And so the realities maybe played out in different ways. I don't know how everything works. I know that some people feel that that's what happens. And so I could tell very much that it was a very ancestral in one way or the other, wherever they came from, that these ancestors or these past lives between him and his father had been a relationship of trying to help each other through time and helping to their soul contracts for their next life would be to, or for their current lives and next lives to combine, were to help the individual play out their inner stories, these inner things happening, to allow this future expansion that they're meant to have to come into reality. And I helped the person cut the soul contracts so that that would no longer be, because what happens, what I find with the ancestors through time, I they they come from the oneness. We all do. We come from the oneness, and after each past life or each life experience at the end of our life, then we eventually, often we stay in the waiting place, as I call it, in nature, the biofield of nature around us, and we stay there for a long time. Sometimes it's shorter. Sometimes it's a matter of just a few months. Sometimes it's just a matter of a year or so. Sometimes it's decades and hundreds of years, because through time, the truths about needing our ancestors and that they need us to help them clear, and the knowledge of the afterlife that was lost so that the ancestors don't know at the time of their death, and so they get all stuck in this time because of lack of knowledge and lack of someone to help them. And and so this is what happens, and so through time it builds up. So there are many ancestors or past lives where it's meant for good. It starts out as good because they return to the oneness, and then if they come again, or if it's an ancestor and that's passed down through the ancestry within us, but they come for good. With the good intention of helping each other clear for these highest good, but because we're all stuck in our bodies with our minds that get stuck in fight or flight because of the world we experience around us and this lack of knowledge and these resets that perhaps occurred. And so we lose through time, and we lose this continuity between generations, and the knowledge isn't passed down like it was meant to be passed down. Then then we're stuck in this fight or flight pattern. And so this relationship between the different members of the family, what was meant to good and started out with good intentions, um, turns out not good. And so it gets shifted from the fear or the hierarchical perspective, because of fight or flight in our minds and the lack of knowledge. And so it becomes not helpful. So you have generations upon generations, or past lives upon past lives, or realm other realities, however it actually is, that I couldn't really tell the difference between them. Then these are all stored, and they keep happening over and over and over, because that became comes their go-to. That becomes their knowledge at the time, that that's what they're supposed to do, or they're meant to do, when in reality it's not. From the oneness, it's not what they're meant to do. um, and we're meant to do it for good, not for the the unhelpfulness that it often turns into. And so the ancestors take that knowledge with them to the oneness, and they, when they return to the oneness, and they return to the non-hierarchical mindset, the mindset of abundance and love and freedom and truth. But when they come again to the life, or what they pass down through their DNA, then through their children, is often this unhelpfulness that has played out in their realities, that gets played over again through generations, or through past lives, or through other realities, and however it is. And so when a person becomes aware that they have these soul contracts that tie into, that are all about those um, old beliefs that we carry in our, stuck in our biofields. And when we come to the point in our inner healing journey and in our life journey where we realize that we have these soul contracts that are not playing out the way they're supposed to be, or the way they're meant to be, then what is meant to be is that we cut those and cancel them and set everyone free throughout all the generations, and we set ourselves free so that our lives then can go forward instead of being tied in that way with the past. We're meant to honor our ancestors, to have gratitude, to learn from them. They're meant to pass down their information of spiritual wisdom and to teach us and help us in the next life. Um, but we're not meant to have the negative things that occur between us, between the generations, and with from one generation or one person to the next to the next. And so we set ourselves free as we set them free. And that way we're able to pursue our own inner desires, listening to our own heart, not listening to the old stories that we inherited or that developed because of what we inherited. And it allows us this, just in like my dream, this expansion of, it's a key, and we then take the next step in pursuing those passions and desires that we hear in our own heart, in our own spirit, and learn to fully express those so that we expand our lives and we step into this beautiful, beautiful life, right? Of experiencing things in a new way, of this transformation, and then being able to share this love and freedom and truth, however that plays out in those desires and our talents and abilities that we have in this life, and with people around us, and how we can share however we're meant to share those, however you find that works for you, to share those in your life to bring this great expansion into your life, because that's what we'll all have at the whenever the, what is the vision of the second coming of Christ, or how other perhaps prophets explained it, or whatever, is this expansion at time when there are no more resets through time, through the hierarchical shifts. There are no more of the negativity that plays out in what would be karma, or one soul pursuing things for another soul that they think is what they're supposed to be when really it isn't. And it allows this great expansion where we can just move forward, not tied to the past, other than through gratitude and through learning. And we're just able to transform our own lives, and in doing so transform our families and our communities and the universe. And that's how it ties into moon energy, because the moon is about our passions and desires. It represents our heart energy. And the sun is our solar plexus energy, right? Our mind energy. Our throat is the stars energy that shifts daily and shifts monthly, however their cycles are playing, are running through the universe. And that's, they shift us in many ways on how they interact with each other, and how they interact with our energy, how we react to those energies that they bring to us as opportunities to look within and make this transformation. And so the stars are about our throat energy, how we play out in life. And um, that's what we're meant to do, to play it forward, to open to this great expansion of our spirit's desires, of those passions and purposes that um, for this life, of how we're just us. No one else can play it out in the way we can, that can benefit the universe. And so the moon energies and the ancestors is how we what we can learn from, and how we can help not just us, but the ancestors and the entire universe in shifting into these moon energies and making this deep transformation that the energies are all about this week, by looking inside at and asking what's ready to clear, and doing your part in, whether you do it just by thought and intention, or whether you do it through energy sessions or through counseling, or however, hypnosis, meditation, tapping, whatever plays out in for you. That's what this week is about. It's a chance to realize that transformation that you're meant to have, and take the first steps in making that change, so that you too can open the treasure chest, find the key, and step into the beautiful old world building that is like your total expansion in life. And so that's how my perspective shows today. And I hope that in some way that's valuable to each of you watching. Please join me tomorrow evening, on Wednesday evening at 7, and we'll take these energies of the transformation, of the looking deep within and working through those, and we'll tune ourselves to be more in alignment with those, so this inner knowing, inner healing, um, um, pursuing then this expansion, these passions in our lives, can help us integrate within our own lives and become more of a reality for us. So that's for tomorrow night, the tuning. And then it'll be 2 weeks, on September the 7th. I believe it's a Sunday evening at 7 o'clock, will be the next Old World Energy Grid system tuning, to activate that energy grid. And again, it's to work for this transformation in our lives, the transformation in the earth and in the universe, and this energy that can then begin to flow more freely within us and within the universe. And so, thank you for listening in. And this is the second anniversary of my coming to know about the soul fragments and heart fragments. That was a part of it. And then about knowing about clearing the placental energies, and how that plays in with the your guardian angel and your higher self, that are meant to rejoin you and actually become part of your physical being, not just following you around or being with you in the energy. They're meant to be integrated within us, and I was showing how to do that, and so that it can happen in a beautiful way that doesn't disturb our energy but enhances it. And in turn, then, this having those high positive voltage energies within us helps those darker, or deeper, I should say, pockets of old stories, pockets of old patterns and old thought patterns be able to open and clear. And that then allows more of the expansion in our lives. So, as part of that 2-year anniversary for my life of having that angel within me, and being able to offer that to my clients, which I've done for 2 years now. I offer that to you. Usually it's not available, only through 6 sessions, but I'm making it available for a short time, to offer you this as 3 sessions that would be at a special price, and you can contact me about that. Um, and more information's on the website. So I give you great thanks for watching, and wish you all the best, and full of much light and love in your journey. Bye bye. See you next week.